The fire department.
All set.
Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, November 16th. It is now 6:07 PM. Town Council meeting at Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. Mark, will you lead us in prayer?
Father, we pray that you be with us as we conduct this meeting. Help us to do things in a way that's beneficial to the taxpayers and the residents of the town. Help us to do it with according to the laws of the land and the laws according to you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Jay, we the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, first, I want to say, I think I told my daughter, happy 19th birthday, Rachel. I apologize, I'm not at your party tonight. And secondly, if you see this lovely glow on Mary Beth Williamson here, this Sunday, she became a proud grandmother for the first time of Vivian James. So congratulations, Mary Beth, to that.
Congratulations.
Beautiful, if I do say so myself, like her mom.
Councilman Bourget,
Here.
Councilman Licciardi,
Here,
Councilman Mesiak,
Here.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Here,
Council President Goslin.
Here.
There is a quorum on record. Resolution declaring November 27, 2021 as Small Business Saturday.
move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? This is a yearly thing we get, requesting that the day after Thanksgiving be,
Day after Black Friday.
day after Black Friday be Small Business Day. So we honor that almost every year for the past 5 or 6 years. So that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
A resolution establishing Recreation Committee as an advisory committee for the West Warwick Town Council.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Second discussion. I know some members of the council have any comments or concerns. I know, Jay, you attended the meeting last night.
yes, I did.
Any questions, comments?
I do. At the meeting, there was some, Mark had brought a resolution forward for us to look at. And there was some members that were present who wanted to add or delete or change to that resolution. So I don't know where we stand with that coming forth before the council tonight.
Mark?
Certainly. So there were some what I'd consider minor additions. I can read them and I can work with Paula later to make them official should you agree on them. But in the second whereas, after town council, we'd add and Parks and Recreation Department. So the committee would make recommendations to the town council and the Parks and Recreation Department. Some changes on section 2. Easier if I just read it, but the committee shall have the responsibility to advise the town on planning, construction, land acquisition, operating and maintenance, and organizing and coordinating activities and other issues related to parks and recreation in the town of West Warwick. So it eliminates the word council, sticks with just town, so it references both the council and the Parks and Rec Department and just cleans up a couple of typos. There was some discussion on section 4 about the appointment of 3 years. I know on this agenda, there is a move to appoint all 5 members again. Not sure where we are on the thought process on, do you want to stagger it or keep it all at till 2024 as it's mentioned? And the last part in section 5 was after the word quorum, adding an additional sentence that the committee will establish its bylaws, and in the following sentence, eliminating the word council, just making reference that shall make recommendations to the town as a reference to both the council and the Parks and Rec Department.
My only question would be, everything seems fine, except if we're going to stagger the terms, how do we determine who who's our,
You might want to consider that for the second go around. So the first guy's out, everybody gets a 3-year term. And then in between now and then, you can address the issue of staggering for the first appointment. So you got 5 appointees. There'll be 2 members from the council or one? One member from the council. So when the 3 years is coming up, the council itself can start addressing how you want to stagger it, or you can do it now.
I prefer to stagger it. To me, it just makes sense. That's why we staggered the council. You know, it's just so you have.
But just the question, do you guys want to do it now, or do you want to wait a couple of years?
Was there any input last night?
There was,
Okay.
that came up about the council, about every other board in town,
Right.
you know, is kind of staggered as people leave. You know, we're starting with a fresh 5,
I mean, I would only say
you know.
to just stagger it kind of the way our wards are staggered. So whoever's coming up next year would be, so that would be wards 3.
Well, these
Two
are
and-
3-year terms. We're doing 5,
No,
4 years.
well, but unless we decide to do these for less and have them staggered, or we want to make one of these longer. I mean,
Your control is you could start them off with, one could get a 1-year term, one could get a 2-year term, one could get a 3, 4, and 5. And then it would just follow the wards like the elections do, or you could really do it any way you want.
yeah, I mean, that's what I was just suggesting. 1, 2, and 3, just get like a 2-year, and then 4 and 5 get a 3-year. I mean, I'm up to anything, but if we're going to stagger them, at least that way it's done in the same way that our,
I think
Our
it should
wards
be,
are done.
I think it's a good idea. I think it should be uniform, you know, and be consistent with us and the school committee.
All right, so
But
since,
are we 100% sure that it's by ward?
It's not by,
No,
no.
so I think we want to be careful about that. Yeah.
you just might want to not by ward, but if you stagger them
Right.
by election, for example, since 2020 just passed and 2022 is coming up, if any of the members were on the board as of 2020, even though the board did not meet, you might want to start them on a 3-year starting in 2020. And then they would be up 2023. And then the guys that just got appointed, which would be Mr. Marzullo and Mr. Reed, you could put them on for 3 years commencing 2022. They would be up in 25. So then you'd have some continuity for the next 5 years.
so,
So you can do the math anyway you
all
want.
right, I mean, that makes sense too then. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter.
How about a suggestion?
Why don't we let the committee make a
Yeah.
suggestion back to the council and we'll stagger it.
But
with the
it should be,
idea that we-
it should be
I
staggered
think we
though,
all
yeah.
agree that
Yeah.
it should
It
be
should be
staggered.
staggered.
Yes.
But you could table this resolution and then, I don't know when you're meeting next, but your bylaws should jibe with the resolution language. But if you want to have one resolution presented so you guys can vote on it and pass it, you can always amend it afterwards.
Well, I mean, another question came up. I brought it up regarding the resolution is it's a Parks and Rec board, always been a Parks and Rec board. Somehow the Civic Center is intertwined with this. They're 2 different entities. I think the Civic Center actually should have a board, like a subcommittee, similar to the sewer department, because it's a separate entity like the sewer department. I don't think it should be commingled with Parks and Rec. It never has. I spoke with Attorney DiFiore on it, just to get a devil's advocate. And he sent me the, hang on, right, the Parks and Rec code, which he just updated, and the Civic Center code, Article 5, which he just updated, and there's clearly a division. So again, I think it should be, just like it's worked before, the 5 members of the committee, a school committee member, a council member, and a representative of the town, which I call it the point person, would be Freddie Gill. I confirmed that about 4 times last night. And whatever Fred wants to do as a DPW director, obviously he's in conversation with the manager, but whatever they do on that end, that's up to them. So, and then we can move forward.
So you didn't mention the town manager there.
Well, Fred is the point person, and Mark, I mean, however you want to do it. I mean, we talked last night. I can't remember what was said as far as, you know, if Mark's going to be the point person, then Mark's the point person. It really doesn't matter to, you know, I don't think to anybody, but that's,
I don't know if I necessarily believe that the town manager or should have like a named position on the committee. Obviously, I have a vested interest and intend on attending. But as far as who the ex officio members are, the important ones are, as the councilman mentioned, but I'm not on other committees, whether that's something that I should
Okay.
be on other committees, that's open for debate, but I think the continuity will work with the Parks and Rec or DPW, running the primary point of contact, and obviously we'll all work together to do what we need to do.
And again, personally, the town manager can attend every meeting and any meeting to, whether it's the pension board, wherever it is. So that's up to the town manager.
So
if he's
so you're
attending that meeting.
suggesting, Jason, that it be ex officio members include one member of the town council, one member of the school committee, and the head of Parks and Rec,
Correct.
which is typically traditionally been the assistant DPW director.
However they want to do it.
Okay.
It doesn't matter
Okay.
to me. I'm just,
Okay.
but it should be one member
Okay,
on the board. So we should be sitting up here and everybody else can be in, as comes, the more people, the better. But you're part of the public. And they can speak in public comment, just kind of how we run our meetings. You know, trying to keep it consistent.
that's fine with me.
Is that,
I don't have any.
we
I don't have
can,
a problem with that
No.
either.
is that something we can legally, are we?
No, you're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if it's
You can
not,
see it,
if it's
Michael.
not working out, you can always change it. So you can always add ex officio members if you want to. But I mean, right now is a starting point to get this board moving, start, and then you can make adjustments as you go along.
So the next question I would have is, are we going to amend that here tonight, or are we going to
When's the next meeting? Do you know?
December 7th?
I want to say the 13th.
No.
They just, but I mean, that's still, I mean, it's in December.
So might it be better to table it and then clean it up so we know exactly what we're
That's
voting on,
fine.
since there are a few changes? But I would agree, if so, eliminate the town manager, eliminate head of the civic center and the head of the Parks and Rec. You keep saying Freddie Gill, but whoever that may be.
Whatever the committee
Right.
decides.
Right.
Well, according to Al, it was Parks and Rec is Parks and Rec is under DPW.
Right.
So that's why I just went with the head right there. So again, if whatever they want to do, they're working together in conjunction, so it doesn't really matter.
The head of DPW director or designee.
Yeah,
and
right.
would Work.
However that works, it's.
Any other comments before we make any motions? Mark, you're going to make those suggested changes?
Yes, I'll work with Paula or Sarah before the next meeting.
All right, so I would need a motion to table.
Motion to table.
Second.
Moving seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Table to the next meeting. So it doesn't get, yeah.
Consent agenda is approval of the minutes of the November 2nd, 2021 regular town council meeting.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Moving seconded. Any discussion? We have the minutes of November 2nd, minutes of executive session and cancellation of taxes. Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
So you did 2 and 3 already?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Business licenses.
Recuse myself from basically all of it.
Councilman Messi is going to recuse himself from business licenses. Do I have a motion?
Move the business licenses.
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion? Any public discussion on the business licenses? That's theatrical performance, dance live band, 24-hour victual license, victual house license renewals, police constable renewals, balloons and novelties license, and tag day license. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. If you were here for any of those items, those have all been approved.
Appointments and resignations. Appointment of Derek Reed to the Recreation Committee for a term ending November 16th of 2024.
I don't know how this will work. I know we just discussed this about staggering terms. It's the same people that will be on the committee, but
Yeah,
I
if
think, can we table this?
Right.
Right.
If the thought process is to stagger, table this, and then the council can give their ideas, or members of the committee can give their ideas to the manager about how the staggering is going to start and how it's going to end.
Because they're all have the same end date, so.
Move to table the appointments and resignations.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance amendments, second reading of ordinance 2021-16, amending the West Warwick Code of Ordinance Appendix C Traffic Ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No, this was on the last meeting. Where is the stop sign at? Yeah. I'm just trying to catch it real quick.
Riverdale Ave.
Yeah, Riverdale Avenue. Any questions or concerns? There was none last time. Anybody here for the ordinance for Riverdale Ave stop sign? No parking, I'm sorry. Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Lichardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilman Bourget,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
New business, October 2021 financial report.
Kristen?
Good evening. Current year tax collections total $36,348,663.62, which is 54.55% of the budget for current year taxes. As we've completed 2 collection quarters, we are experiencing strong collections. Collections tend to trend over budget for the first and second quarters, as many taxpayers pay their annual bills in full rather than quarterly. As the quarters progress, it levels off. Prior year tax collections total $246,353.76, which is equal to 16.42% of the budgeted amount. This line has been adjusted by $362,699.66 for the 60-day rule and accrued back to fiscal year 21. Overall, the revenues are at 45.12%, which is higher than the expected 33.33%. Expenditures are trending under budget, 27.54%. This is 5.80% below the expected 33.33%. The Civic Center has current operating expenditures of $126,413.22 and operating revenues of $268,993.30. The auditors were in during October and completed field work. We are on track for a timely release of the financial statements. Hopefully by mid-December, since the manager is having a baby in December, so he's really pushing to get it done by mid-December. The bank balances as of November 10th, 21 is $25,143,144.17.
Just to clarify, he's not having the baby.
Correct, his wife. A baby is entering the
I was ready to
family.
look at Mark. That's what I was looking at Mark.
Everybody's eyes
I'm
are
out.
in.
Done.
Any questions for Kristen?
No, but we also want to clarify that that bank balance includes a deposit of
Our rescue, American
yes.
Rescue Act money, it does, yes, 4 million-ish.
Thank you, Kristen.
Resolution authorizing select full and part-time non-union employees of the town of West Warwick to receive a salary increase of FY 2022 and alteration of administrative employee personal time off policy.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, discussion. Any discussion from the council?
The only question I have is on the personal days. I don't understand, just looking for clarification on this as to why personal days, salary employees, to my knowledge, usually get to just request a day off and, they don't lose money anyway, so I don't understand the point of.
So our administrative people by policy have personal time off. They accrue so many hours per week or however that formula works out. So the proposal here is to make it more equitable compared to their, competitors is a bad word, but similar positions in other communities. And also with our unionized personnel, there's a disparity there. So one of the recommendations that had come forward when we did this assessment is is that it's a feature that will enhance a benefit without a significant cost to the town. So by using personal days, those get issued at once and need to be used in the year that they are earned. So they don't accrue. They're not going to be an eventual payout in the future upon a separation of service. So it just brings them a little more on par to neighboring communities and closer to, shrinks the disparity between the administrative staff, non-union personnel, and the unionized staff.
Well, I guess my question is though, is if one of them want to take a day off now, they don't lose any money if they take the day off because of salary, correct?
We don't have an unlimited bank, if that's what you're saying. You just.
No, but again, going back to 2010 in the Jim Thomas days, one of the things that I know the council asked for was any department head that was hired. Yes, they have to have a criteria to follow. But for instance, and I'll just use you, Kristen, if she said, I need to take Monday off, and she went to the town manager and said, I need Monday off for this reason, their salary. So there's really no difference in their pay, right? Now, you and Sherry, or the HR person, whoever that may be, would be in charge of that and look at abuse and
Right.
everything else. And so any salaried employee that, you know, they're entitled to 3 weeks vacation. I'm just throwing numbers out there. If you get 3 weeks vacation and you use that 3 weeks, but then you need a day here, a day there, you know, as long as it's not abused, I don't see a problem with it. I know, for instance, everybody here whose salary is here tonight, putting in more time than their original 40 hours a week. So I've always said they're salaried employees. So at the end of the week, if they say, I want to cut out a few hours early because I stayed till 11 o'clock at a council meeting, that's up to the town manager. We leave that, we've always left that discretion up to you. So adding those 3 extra days, that's what really was.
Right, so
concern.
on a day-to-day basis, people that take a day off have a deduction of some type from their accruals, whether it's their personal time off, or in this case, the suggestion is they have the option to use those 3 personal days.
But they get paid out now on their original accrual, right? So they have to use the other 3 days, which they're going to use those 3 days first
Right.
before they use their accrual days and
Exactly.
carry over those accrual days. See what I'm saying? We're trying to avoid carryover
Correct.
because every department head that I've seen leave here, whether it's a town manager or whoever, and we tried to stop that in 2010, and I thought it was stopped, but obviously it's not. They're still accruing, they're carrying over, and they leave, they're taking those hours with them.
Correct. Yeah, there's nothing in the administrative policy
Yeah, that was what
has
we
a
changed in
cap
2010.
yet, but
And somewhere along the line, and I don't know if it was in the Fred Presley date, somebody arbitrarily changed it on their own because the council changed that in 2010.
I'll research that, but I never saw anything. There's nothing in the files that I've seen that.
No,
That
it was talked about here in the council chambers back in 2010, 11, when Jim Thomas was here. Because we were, you know, there were people leaving and we're paying $80,000 to walk out the door, you know, or whatever it was. So we wanted to stop any new department head. We honored every department head that was here and had those hours. But any new department head, they weren't supposed to be able to carry over somewhere along the lines. And I don't know where that changed and how that changed back to the way it was. So that's why I'm really concerned about the 3 days because we're trying to avoid this carryover stuff. And
I would like to hear from one of the department heads if one of them would choose to speak, because, I mean, I just don't know. That's why I asked the question. As to what the difference is, because salaried employees get, you know, if they need a day off, they still get the same salary. That's the benefit of being salaried.
So myself, I would never take a day off without discharging PTO time. And it's not good for tracking purposes. You want to know when your people are here. You know, at some point we want to implement time and attendance, and you don't want to have that someone was here working 40 hours when they truly weren't here for one of those days. So I don't think it's good practice to let someone to take a whole day off without discharging PTO time. I don't think it's good practice at all. I think that if we had the personal days, then that's what you use. You don't.
So Kristen, I'm salary. I have a PTO tracker
Yeah.
that I fill out for every day off. My boss sees it.
Yes, I do the same.
So when I fill out, he has to approve it.
Yeah.
And so do we have a system like that in place now?
Yes, if I want a day off, I
So-
fill out a form.
So if you're taking a day off, right, why can't you put it in as a PTO tracker where, and again,
So you're saying that it,
mine doesn't accrue, I don't accumulate on my, like a weekly check or whatever, and I don't carry, we're not allowed to carry over. So what I'm saying is like, when I want a day off, I just put in and my boss either approves it or disapproves it.
right,
And then we go from there. And as long as I'm not abusing it, they don't, I don't get questioned, you know.
but does it
I
come out
have-
of your
I have
PTO
so
time
many
or it
hours, like,
doesn't?
for instance, I have so many hours, I have 4 weeks, right? So 4 weeks, that's my minimum goal, right, is 4 weeks. And that's where I stick it at, that's where I try to stick to. And, you know, if I need a day here, something happens, and I know something's coming up, you know, I put that day in, it gets approved or disapproved, right? So,
Yeah, we all do this, the same. We put in our requests for time off. But it's not a good practice to have someone take time off and not discharge PTO time. Because if you're ever looking back on the records to say, who was in that week, there was an incident, you know, or, you know, Channel 10 decides to drive down the street and say, oh, such and such got paid for a full week this week and they're, you know, off at the casino for the day. It's not good practice, is what I'm saying. So what Mark is trying to do is implement more of a structured process, and also, like you said, to attract candidates to come here, because the disparity is huge between what the union members get and the non-union administrative people get. So that's what I've experienced even in my prior employers.
So are you guys suggesting it should be unlimited? I guess that's what I'm missing.
no,
And these days don't carry the
No,
way it's written.
so, but that's what I'm saying, they don't carry, but they're gonna use those 3 days first to carry over the other hours, is what I'm saying.
so
Well,
what would be the difference if they're taking an unpaid day? They're still not going to discharge a PTO day.
I mean,
And like I said, I've never been salary, so I'm asking these questions because I'm not sure how it all works. So this information is what I'm trying to
Right.
gather to make a decision here, that's all. So, yeah, I'm get a better understanding now anyway.
Yeah, you know, for purposes of payroll and personnel, and you always want to know where your people are.
Correct.
That's my opinion.
Elaine?
Just to clarify, to my knowledge, no one ever takes a full day off without charging time, department heads. This is not a case of whether or not someone's paid for a day off. It's just giving 3 extra days to the people who have PTO. That's simply what it is. It's just a lot of misinformation being said.
Okay, and that's why I was asking the questions, because,
Yeah,
you know,
it's an additional 3
wanted to-
days. I don't get it because I'm not on the PTO system, but 3 personal days are not allowed to be carried over. And David's right, they'll be used first and then the 3 PTO days will be carried over. So it's kind of a wash.
okay, thank you.
and actually, is that something we're still looking at? Because we have talked about modifying as we have new people come in that we don't want to have, or we want to have a cap on what is
Yes.
able to be carried over. And I.
I didn't realize there was something in the past, so I will look for that first because I don't need to reinvent the wheel if it existed before. But Sherry and I are working on that one.
Yeah, so I think we'll have to look into that because the last revision of the administrative policy book was 2015 and it's set up as PTO without a cap. And that's kind of the problem when you have everything lumped together as PTO. Normally you would cap vacation. So if you get 2 weeks of vacation a year, you say you got to use them. But it is typical to let sick time carry over because people will save sick time for if I have to have surgery, I'm having a baby, you know, whatever it might be. So it's a little tougher to put a cap on when it's all lumped together. So we'll look at it and we'll try to find that 2010
Yeah,
information, but
potentially the cap can be when you're leaving. There can only be a certain amount that you get paid out for. I mean, while you're here, you can use it for those occasions that you need it, but we're not going to pay you out going out the door.
And that's how it was in my last job.
And
It
that's
was capped.
probably,
Yeah.
what you can take with you.
Yep.
Right.
Any other questions from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution authorizing the payment of COVID operational essential worker pay for municipal employees from American Rescue Plan funds.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, discussion, Mark?
One of the primary identified permissive uses of American Rescue Plan funds is essential worker pay or COVID operational pay. It's something that was discussed when the COVID pandemic first came out. I know the council president and the former town manager had a lot of discussions with some of the especially public safety personnel looking to implement something like that, termed hazard pay back then. So again, this is one of the permissive uses that the U.S. Department of Treasury has put out. So we've come up with a formula that I believe is equitable, divvying it up between 2 calendar years. So employees that were here during the initial phase, call it the calendar year 2020, and then employees that were here during the second year of COVID being 2021. So we could try to catch all populations, some that were here for both, some that may have come and gone either way, to make it fair and equitable, with special attention to our first responder emergency services folks that obviously had the highest risk and worked the most hours during the pandemic. So the proposed tier is the first responder emergency services folks would get payment of $1,250, essentially twice, once for calendar year 2020 and once for calendar year 2021. That would be prorated if, depending on their time of service, if they were hired during the time frame. And then the other for our municipal workers who all performed essential task, their annual payment would be $750, prorated again for times of service if they were hired or separated from service during a particular year. And then the last tier is a disrupted schedule. Pretty much what happened was there were some periods there that some staff more or less were allowed to not work at the town hall, whether it was closed or we were trying to, management at the time tried to separate personnel and not have an office staff. Like in the finance, they split into 2 teams, and so they wouldn't commingle and cross-contaminate. So there was a few week stretches where people were working half a schedule, more or less. So Kristen had gone through with Sherry and Melissa and payroll and did a study on how many hours during that calendar year people worked. Because obviously there was a lesser schedule for a few weeks' time. And essentially it was a 79% hourly hours worked during that calendar year. So the folks that had that disrupted schedule and essentially were already paid to stay home would get 79% of that benefit. So the ones that did work full-time received the full amount, and those that didn't would get a slight reduction. Just seemed like the most fair way to do it.
Any questions for Mark?
The last tier you're speaking of,
Mhm.
where does, I understand the first one, I understand the second one. We had workers that had worked, that got paid for 40 hours and only worked 20. So are they in any of
So
these?
that's that
That's a lot
last
of-
one. So over the course of the year, if you take out those weeks that they only worked 20 hours, but paid for 40, for that year, on average, they worked 79% of the hours that were available to them
year.
for the full year.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So I mean, obviously you say 20, if that was for a 4-week period, you spread it out. They essentially worked 79% of the hours that was expected of them, or what a full-time person would work.
Still not following with it. All
So-
all I'm
so
looking
it's
at
not-
it is,
It's not just the COVID time. They took the whole year hours worked
okay,
from the year before, compared it to the year after. And for the year for 2019 and 2020, 79% of the hours were worked, or 75, whatever it was.
79 point something.
79% of the hours were worked for that employee compared to 19 to 20. So that's where you got the number from, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So you were expecting that it would be 50, but that wasn't for the entire year.
Right,
I
right,
think.
right,
So that's why.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And obviously, the thought was obviously the personnel, all kind of worked during some times. They didn't have 100% control based on, some part of it was management decisions
Right.
to do some of the things that were done. In hindsight, should they or could they have been done differently? Probably. But I think at the time, people made the best decisions with the information that was available to them in the interest of safety. But
Yeah, and this discussion has been going on. This is going on almost 2 years now. Before police chief was police chief, he was also union president, along with union president Rita, who both reached out to Ernie, myself, to discuss, not just, we said the word hazard pay, but it was the amount of extra money it was costing to get this stuff clean, walk in their house, do whatever. It was at an expense to the employee, not including the hazard of working during the COVID times also. So, it was definitely discussed over, and I, we talked about it before this funding came available. So we were looking at the expense and we were trying to come up with a number that was going to work. And at the time we couldn't. And now with this, this money coming in strictly for this reason, it actually is, it doesn't affect the taxpayer as much as ultimately it does, but where we were thinking about taking out a normal budget money. So I just, I want to make that clear to the council. And I know, Mark, you are fairly new to this, like a couple months in now, but this has been going on for 2 years. And I'm sure, being a police officer and working through COVID yourself, you probably understand everything that you went through.
Yeah, because a lot of the people didn't care whether or not they had COVID. They still had their domestics, they still had their other situations that we had to go to, and we can't just leave it and say, oh, we can't do it because they have COVID. We still had to do the job. So I'm all for this. I want to thank all the employees for their time working through this, especially in the beginning when it was a lot of unknown. It's a little different now, but back in the beginning, it was, pretty concerning for a lot of people. So I want to thank them for their service and time.
You have any comment?
No, I agree. I mean, it's something we discussed a long time ago. We didn't
Years
have the
ago.
funding back then. And I do believe this is one of the reasons this funding was given to us, as a matter of fact. So I think it's important that we show our gratitude in this fashion. And splitting it between the 2 years will help tax-wise but if we can get something to these employees before the holidays, that would be great.
What's your timeline with distribution?
so the reason I wanted to do them both at the same time was the one for fiscal year 20. The people that were served during fiscal year 20 would get that check. Kristen reported that they should be able to easily pull that off, would go out this calendar year. And then service for 2021 would go out shortly after New Year's. So both groups, most people are going to be in both categories. But the ones that got hired or separated service during a different year might get one or the other. But it would go out within the next 2 months collectively.
I also want to thank the council because I am new here and this is all discussed before me getting here. I want to thank the council and the manager for doing this, because other communities are not rewarding their first responders, they're firing them. And I really appreciate, what this council has done and what this town is doing for their first responders. Thank you.
Any other comment from the council? Any employee comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
I have a comment on the last resolution that you just passed. We all talked about the additional 3 personal time, but we didn't address the salary increases. This agenda is completely different than the agenda that we were provided. But the agenda that was sent out to us from the town clerk's office had a 3% increase for non-union people with positions listed. This has no percentage and no positions listed. So I'd like to know what the increases are that are being approved.
It says 3%.
Not on this. This is what's out there on the table.
That's the agenda.
Yeah, that's the agenda,
attachment,
but the resolution
itself.
online is 3%.
Yes, the resolution itself.
For all
All,
positions.
all
Positions that were
non-salary
listed
positions.
on the original resolution.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry about that.
A request from the West Warwick Veterans Council for contribution of $1,500.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the
to
motion.
approve.
Second.
Motion seconded. Bob, come on up. Just state your name and address for the record.
Bob Sharishman, 229 East Greenwich Avenue. As past president of the West Warwick Veterans Council, I want to thank this council and past councils for the support they've given us. $1,500 allows us to become caretakers of the West Warwick Veterans Memorial Park. You've seen during the summer and the fall, we've been fixing the monuments up. We worked on the cannons, and we've also purchased a flagpole for Veterans Square, which we're going to dedicate on the 27th of November.
That's
Actually,
on
maybe,
here.
maybe we could move that up so that way you could stay up there. We can move up number 7 after you, if you want to stick up here.
Again, any comments or questions from the council?
No.
My only thing
Support.
is, thank you to the veterans. My son's been in the Army 15 years. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your support.
Thank you. Any other
If
comments?
you want to hang out, we'll move yours up.
I'll move the other one up. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Motion to move number 7.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving number 7. Paul,
So-
hold on, let her read it.
Sorry.
Announcement of flag raising ceremony monument at the corner of Bridle Ave and LaGris Avenue on December 27, 2021 at 9:30 a.m.
November 27th. You said December.
That's okay.
I know it's been a long night. For the record.
So Rep Nori asked me to add this to the agenda, and we were just talking about it. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving at 9:30, and it's right across from Rock's Market, right on the corner. It was a pole that was donated by the Veterans Council. I don't know if you want to add anything about that event.
That is known as Veterans Square. From my research, I can figure out that back in the 40s, the VFW was on that site. And I believe that's why it's called Veterans Square. This will be the 3rd flagpole we put up there under the Veterans Council in my tenure. The other 2 got vandalized. Hopefully this one will not, but it's an open event. We hope to see the council and the public there.
And again, I know Representative Norrie was a big advocate. He received the phone call about that flagpole. And I know he worked on getting that flagpole up. And I know Jeff, in his former role as Parks and Rec, did a lot over there and cleaned up and definitely got the monument a little more presentable. So I want to thank everybody involved to get this event going. And, thank you for all your help on that.
And again, thank you. And it's something that's needed, and we're glad to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Have a good night,
Bob.
See you next Saturday.
And actually, the ceremony on Thursday was terrific.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I couldn't be there because I had to work.
Same here.
Discussion action, concerns brought forth by the constituents in Ward 3 in dumping of field on 113 Brookside Avenue.
So I put this on the agenda. It was brought forth last meeting by a couple of constituents in Ward 3. I don't believe that there is any more information tonight, but I wanted to keep it on the agenda because I didn't want to act like we were dodging the situation. I don't know if the town manager has any new information.
We don't really have new information. I believe we did communicate with the property owner, both myself and the building inspector. The town is looking at the ordinances that we have to see if there's one that would be applicable, that we could advise and request be followed, but there is different interpretations than what's happened in years past on specific ordinances or zoning rules that would be applicable in this case. Attorney DiFiore has submitted several different emails with information, as well as building official Assalone doing some research. Nothing is jumping out, but I know the property owner, we both spoke to him recently. He is obviously wants to be compliant and, wants to be able to definitely committed to following any rules that we have. But there still remains that question on what authority the town has in this particular case. There was reference to DEM handling hazardous materials. They did come and respond and investigated and reported that there there is nothing within their jurisdiction, no violations that would fall under their jurisdiction.
They've put
So-
that, and they put that in writing just so that way that, okay,
Correct.
So I'm good.
yeah.
And as long as you got your information. And I don't think they're even here tonight, so.
Nope. Yeah.
They are? Oh, I didn't.
Yes.
No, I was saying the people who made the complaint,
Oh,
but
okay. Oh,
Richard,
sorry.
if you want to come up and speak, it's up to you, but the two individuals that were here at the last meeting are not here tonight, so
So obviously.
just state your name and address for the
Richard
record.
Banks, 8 Campbell Street. So is this being continued to the next agenda? or is
I mean,
it-
there's really, we really don't have any more information at this point, unless there is some more information brought forth.
Here's my suggestion, that Jay, since you took the complaint, and Mark, if you want to reach out to the two individuals, let them know where we stand. That way it doesn't get prolonged, because why should people keep coming to a meeting and then other people not show
Yeah.
up and we're not discussing it? And
So
if
we're-
DEM has no issue with it, I mean, as, you know, I'm sure there's supposed to be like silt fence or whatever. That's one, you know, that's probably a jurisdiction underneath the building official, but other than that, again, you know, DEM's
I just-
looked at it.
I
and
just
they-
didn't
and they
want-
Sign off on it.
I didn't want to have it, after it was brought forth to us, I didn't want to have 6 months, it come back to us and say we didn't do our due diligence. So if DEM has said that there is no violation and our building inspector also says that, then, I mean, unless there's more, unless there's more information brought forth to us.
I do have the report from the letter from DEM that says there's no violations and that they didn't find anything. So,
All right, well, thank you.
okay. I
Thanks.
just want to make sure, like Jay said, it's not going to keep going and going for the same.
If there
issue.
are any.
But it might,
Go ahead.
yeah.
I'm not saying it won't for sure, but
I think Mark says that they're still looking at it, so I think you.
I mean, obviously,
we want-
someone registers a complaint, as I did speak with Mr. Banks, and obviously he said he's committed to making sure that he follows the rules as the property owner. But trying to identify an ordinance or statute that talks about, appropriate fill or unsightliness. The interpretations and things from years past dealt with hazardous materials or abandoned vehicles or abandoned trailer or boat, and those were all remedied upon notice. So finding an applicable rule now
It almost sounds like you're
hasn't
trying
happened.
to find something.
Right, and
though.
we don't want to go on, we don't want to go out of the way, but
Disrespectful, but. I
Oh,
mean, if we're-
actually, the individual just walked in, so if you want to discuss it.
Well, I'm not so sure this is the forum to
No,
do that. I
right,
think a
right.
meeting perhaps with Mr. Banks and Mr.
And I'm fine with
Petrosi
that.
and Mr. Malanzi and the town manager might be in order with,
Sure. Right.
if everyone sits down at the same table, maybe can figure out what, if anything needs to be done.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And again, I know the individuals are here now, but just to give an update again, Mark, if you want to just give another quick update so they can hear it, that DEM did not find any.
Right, so the DEM did come and inspect it. They did not find any violations that fall within their purview, or at least the quantity of the material didn't fit their criteria that they would be taking any type of reporting or enforcement action. Again, the town is still in the process. And again, I don't want to make it look like we're going out of our way to find something wrong. But if there is an applicable ordinance related to that, we want to be able to bring it forward and provide the proper notice and allow the property owner the time to take corrective action. And he has vowed to do that, but
At the end of the day, I mean, we're looking to make West Warwick a place where people want to be. And Mr. Banks, I know, also has that interest in mind. So again, I think the best avenue to take is to all sit down at the same table and discuss what the issues are.
so I'd be more
Because
than
going
happy to
back and forth.
facilitate that.
Yes, if you would, that'd be great. Thank you, Mark.
Any other comment on the matter at 113 Brookside?
I'm gonna make one comment. The last meeting, the two constituents came up and made an accusation naming not naming, but naming a councilman and a zoning board member were together in a violation regarding 113 Brookside Avenue. It's no secret, Rick's my brother-in-law. I'm the councilman, he's a zoning board member, and there is no violation. And I really strongly suggest we put that on record, because that insinuation isn't, I take that very personally. So That's all I have.
You guys put it on, you can come on up and speak if you'd like.
Good evening, Paul Petrosi, Valley Fuel 1343 Main Street. Number one, nobody accused you of anything. What I said was I found it troubling that a sitting councilman and a sitting zoning board member were involved in this property. Now, I was under the understanding, Mary Beth and David and the council, that we were going to try to resolve this. It was going to be put on the agenda, and then it was going to be postponed until a later date, until everybody could get all the facts together. This has been an ongoing problem for years. And I'm telling you that I was involved in this. This was always a town problem. When this started, I tried to quell the storm before it turned into a hurricane. You know that, David. I contacted you first. Over the years, the town has stopped dumping there. I was forced to call DEM because I was told by people on the council that I had to call DEM. I've had the building inspector out there who agrees with me. This is terrible what's going on there, okay? Does anyone have the right to fill their property? Absolutely. I was a contractor for almost 40 years. But there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. This was a town problem. The dumping and the filling in has been stopped numerous times by the town of West Warwick. DEM met with me, Mark. The gentleman's exact words were, this is not a DEM problem, this is a town problem. I don't understand how this has been going on for 6 weeks now. This has been almost a full-time job for me, trying to get to the bottom of this and trying to get it resolved. Because as a taxpayer, I don't think it's right that I have to put up with this all the time over the years, what's going on in the back of my property. I'm going to use myself as an example. Anybody that knows the property at 1343 Main Street has seen it go from an old rundown building to one of the nicest buildings in town, and I'm proud to say that. I pay my taxes, and may I say I pay them on time, all the time. I deserve answers, and if it's deemed that it's okay to fill that property with what they're filling it with, then I'll be the first one to say, okay, go right ahead. But being an ex-contractor, I know there are certain ways that you have to that you can fill a property. Number one, it has to be done with the correct fill. Number two, you have to have some kind of an erosion plan, and you can't just bulldoze over existing woodlands and wetlands. This is the reason that the town has stopped this property from being filled in over the years. I have nothing against the Ramondos. I have nothing against this man. I have nothing against Mr. Banks. I don't even know them. I have everything against what they're doing behind my building. And I have every right to complain and to try to put a stop to it. And it has been stopped numerous times by the town of West Warwick. And what I don't get now is how this is not a town problem anymore. It's a Paul Petrosi problem.
I don't think that that's what's been said, Paul, and you weren't here when.
No, this man just made an accusation that I said something I did not say. What I said was I found it a little funny and a little strange that a sitting town councilman and a zoning board member were involved in this property, and I'm going through all of this trying to get it resolved. That's what I said. And a zoning board member, by the way, that tells other people what they can do on their property and what they can put there.
So it's an issue that should be discussed, and Mark is going to facilitate that as a group. I don't think this is the venue to do that. I think we all agreed. I've talked to you, I've talked to Kevin. I've not talked to Richard, but I've talked to Mark about it too. Absolutely needs to be addressed. I think everyone sitting in the same room is how you're going to get to an answer and an answer that people can live with. Doesn't matter whose property it is. It could be in,
Right.
It could be in Natick, it could be up in Crompton, it could be anywhere. So that should be irrelevant.
I agree with you.
And I just think that the best way to do it is to have everybody in a room instead of having to have you make phone calls that you have and other people have to. So,
And I agree with you, and I agreed with you when we spoke about this
Yes.
last week.
yes,
But once again, I would have never even come up to this podium if Mr. Licciardi hadn't said what he just said.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on.
Approval of claims submitted by Sean Kyron of 12 Nicole Drive in the amount of $1,657.62.
So this was the claim that was tabled last meeting. DPW Director Gill actually spoke to the resident, let them know after further investigation that that's not our property. It wasn't our property, whatever was installed in that sidewalk, and gave them direction to actually reach out to possibly the state or the actual gas station. So it's no longer on a town issue. So I would say we take no action on this and remove it from the agenda.
Upcoming appointments, sewer use board of review, and alternate member vacancy with the term to expire 10 of 2024, and one vacancy with the term to expire 10 of 2023. Pension committee, 2 vacancies with the term to expire 11/18 of 2024. Juvenile hearing board, 3 vacancies with terms to expire on 12/2021. Tree warden recreation committee, 1 vacancy for a school committee member.
Can I just ask one question on the appointments? For the juvenile hearing board, is they still meeting, being short 3 people?
In terms of.
I don't,
It's not until
yeah, they
December,
haven't met due to
right?
COVID, but
It says 3 vacancies.
With terms to, yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah, the terms haven't fully expired yet, but just letting them
Right,
know.
the
I think
wording
they
is-
received
Wait,
their
where
letters
does it
this
like,
week,
yeah,
so.
that they're already vacant. I'm like, how
Yeah,
how
well,
we
it's,
conducting this?
there's people in place, but their term's expiring, so we sent them letters. And then they can reapply if they'd like, or if anybody else would like to reapply.
I think we talked about the last meeting or the meeting before about changing the wording. So instead of saying 3 vacancies, it'll say 3,
Upcoming.
3 that are expiring. And that way we know, because we'd had somebody apply for a board recently that
Thank you.
wasn't,
Right.
yeah, so.
Really didn't
In
have.
the
an opening.
recreation committee, we're full.
Was that
There are
appointed?
no
We
more.
never received any name for the school committee member.
The school committee member, they haven't,
Okay.
I know they picked the person, but they haven't told us yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
haven't received anything, so I don't know.
Okay. I have a
Alright.
name. She was there.
So we can reach out to the
Yeah.
schools, I'm sure. And
Make it
just-
official.
Yes, yeah, I will do that. Yeah.
I don't know who it is. Public forum,
Public comment.
Anybody else?
It looks like you're the only one jumping.
No problem. I told you I'd be back over and over. Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick. And I have several items. One is with regard to River Point Park. We had gone over and over again about West Warwick had a remediation plan, but they never followed through. I was just wondering if anyone here could address that or put it on the agenda to address it at the next meeting.
Mark?
I do have some communication, it's old communication from DEM. I believe back when Fred Presley was here, that I have on top of my desk. And I'm awaiting to have renewed communication with DEM to see if there's anything in their files that show what action was taken, if any, on the town's part, while we look through our files as well to see if they do match. In the meantime, obviously, we're still working on the playground to get that up to par with the access.
No, that was going to be my second question, where we are with the playground. Mark Denham is your point of contact at DEM. Okay, and he had a plan from West Warwick. It's just, I'm sure he'd be happy to provide it with you. Okay. Last Thursday was Veterans Day. Okay. And I'm not an active veteran per se with the VFW, DAV, American Legion, but I grew up with those guys that were the greatest generation. And over again, over the years, I have seen people, they've come up to me, but hey, I'm not part of the greatest generation. but I hear over and over again, thank you for your service. Mr. Messier posted about the update to the bill signed by Governor McKee, and I posted that on Facebook along with another item, public service, with regard to veterans exemptions. Okay, West Warwick, the paperwork says they're allowed up to $1,000 on the evaluation. The law itself says West Warwick is authorized up to $10,000 on the evaluation. So I started doing some research. Mr. Sikosha got back to me, and I want to thank him. Currently, there are 905 veterans or widows that are on the veterans exemption list. Another 130, if they don't own real property, it carries over to automobiles. I would suggest, and I'm going to be very vocal on this and reach out to other people, that perhaps it's time for the West Warwick Town Council to look into it, maybe do a fiscal impact statement, whatever it would cost to do this. Along the same line, well, let me finish. I like to quote Lincoln on this, goes way back. And it's the motto of the Department of Veterans Affairs: to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. You know, the state used to pay a bonus to veterans, World War I, World War II, Korea. It sort of stopped with Vietnam. It was just, you know, unfortunately, the Vietnam veterans were spit on, they were disrespected. And to me, they deserved much more than that. So maybe it's time that you guys step up to the plate and lead the way within the state, especially since there's 1.1 billion, that's $1,100 million out there for the state. Maybe we can prevail upon our General Assembly reps to get involved and do more with that on behalf of veterans.
So
Can I
actually,
ask
let
a
me
question
just,
quick, though?
go ahead.
For the, and I didn't get clarification. A friend of mine filled out the form today or one day this week.
Mhm.
How does it equate how much towards the 1,000 you get? Is it by how long you served? Is there?
No,
No.
it's a straight veteran. You, if you, as long
No,
as
but
you
it's-
have,
But it says up to 1,000. So I didn't know if there was a breakdown if you got a certain percentage of.
that's valuation, not off your taxes.
Not off your
There's
taxes.
a
So let me
huge
make something
difference.
clear.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
So I just
There's
want-
a huge difference. That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
the fiscal impact. And my understanding, I'm not sure how West Warwick does it. Usually a veteran has to have an honorable discharge. There's general other honorable conditions. I've already gotten into a debate with some people who think, oh my God, they should only pay half the valuation, which I don't agree with. However, I think you guys need to step forward on that.
So let me just clarify something. This has been studied, not with this entire council here. Going back to Councilman Giroux and myself, when we were talking about the seniors tax exemption.
Which is going to be my next
Right.
item.
Our senior tax exemption went to 10,000. And the reason why we went to 10,000 was because they were getting one flat rate as a senior back out, I want to say 6 to 8 years ago. Might be a little somewhere in there.
Just before I was on, so.
So with that being said, when we did that, we did an impact study for moving the seniors to 10,000, because that would also, as the tax rate adjusts up or down, their exemption goes up or down. It follows the tax rate. So at $10,000 exemption, if the tax rate is $23 per thousand, they're getting $230 off their taxes. If the tax rate drops down to 20, they're only getting 200 off their taxes, right? But the tax rate has dropped and fluctuated.
The 10,000 comes under state law.
Yeah, but we moved it to 10,000. There used to be a flat rate. The council moved it at the time, then we did, and the impact study on that was almost $500,000 in our budget. Okay, then we also looked at the veterans that same year, and it was another $300,000, and it might be less or more now, depending on how many are out there. It could be more, it could be less.
I told
don't
you
know.
exact numbers from the tax assessor.
And how much did you say? 900 and
905 between veterans and their widows
Well-
and another 130 on motor vehicles.
Is
and
that all,
women's
is
health.
that all
That's
veterans though?
800.
Is that all veterans? Because for this particular exemption is from like those that served between 47 and 91. And some of them already receive an exemption, right? If they already saw combat
Excuse
time?
me, the new law covers
No,
Cold War period.
No, I
No,
understand.
we
No, I
understand
understand, but I'm saying, but previously, did some of the other veterans already receive a different exemption? So it doesn't add
No,
more,
it's
is my
a-
question.
it's $1,000 exemption off the taxes, which is 23, whatever our tax rate is, that's how much they get.
I believe it's
So-
$175.
Well, it might be a flat rate then. So remember something, going to 10,000 exemption might be, and that's something we can have Kristen and Sal look at, because if it's at 1,000, that's not the tax rate, because the tax rate would only be 20, it's 21 or 22.
This is what I didn't understand, but
Right?
these are
So
the
they're
figures
getting more.
that I'm putting out.
They're
That's why,
They're getting more than that $1,000 exemption.
but this is why I'm bringing it up because
So Alan, I want to point out, our tax rate is exactly $23 on 1,000, $23 on 1,000. So if we gave them a $10,000 exemption, they'll get $230 off their taxes, if that's the way it goes, right? Because that's the way, it's the valuation. It's
Mhm.
10,000 off the valuation. So 10,000 times $23 is 200.
Person that I spoke to
But
today. got that.
what I'm saying here is, I'm not here to discuss it now. I'm here to offer something, suggestions, to have you look at it. And oh, by the way, since you, just a great segue for my next point was with regard to the elderly. You offer them a partial exemption. Some communities, i.e. Coventry, I believe, when people hit 65, their taxes are frozen, which is if people have lived in this town all their lives, they're now on Social Security, they're on a very limited income. It's something that you should explore, and it's time to stand up and do the right thing, especially on the way we waste taxpayers' money on various projects or departments within this town, which I won't go to. I think you know what I'm talking about. And I wanted to point it out. You guys need to stand up and do something. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be around, but hopefully my legacy to my fellow veterans, the younger people, the guys from Vietnam that are quickly passing on, someone needs to do something and do it right, okay? We'll go from there. And my last item has to do with the town solicitor again. I told you it's not gonna go away. I'll be up here at every meeting and remind you, hey, how about reporting back to the people of this community what you were looking at before? Open session, executive session, we'll go from there, but I will not go away. Some people have started calling me a pit bull because I mentioned that last time around. I'm here, and as long as I'm breathing, nothing will stop me. Thank you.
Alan, before you leave, how come you haven't stated the president is now on the wall?
Excellent. I missed that one, but I don't know if you caught my post to you about the tree lighting. I'm sure
I had nothing to do with planting
Vice
that tree.
President Williamson has no problem. She doesn't know what I'm talking about.
No idea.
What's the world's most famous Christmas tree?
Brown.
The Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
So
for
Love the
them.
the
Charlie
tree
Brown
was
tree.
donated.
Okay,
and-
no, I just wanted to point that out. I figured I'd see one on your desk tonight, but anyway,
Too early for that.
Nothing to.
never.
After Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
That's
All
right.
right, you too.
John Reed, 62 Andrews Avenue. I just have a couple of questions. When you were just talking about this property issue, and David, I believe I heard you right, I just need some clarification. If DEM had an issue with this property and found DEM violations, the town would follow suit?
No, I didn't say that. I said if DM has not found any issues, then at that point, what does a town, there's a file on the town, right? On 113 Brookside. The town manager is reviewing that file. I have not seen that file.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that particular.
DEM
I'm
went
just talking
down and
about.
said there's no
the property.
violations. So at that point, what can we say as a council if DEM, you know,
Now, had
and
we-
I'll be honest with you, when Mr. Petrosi called me on the situation, I talked to the building official, I talked to Al DiFiore, they said it's a DEM issue.
Yeah, no, I'm not even
So
talking about that issue. I'm
That's,
just
I
talking.
gave that
a
advice to
general
Mr. Petrosi to
question.
call DEM.
So if there was verified DEM issues on that property, what would be the stance of the town?
DEM issue.
And what, would that go for zoning issues?
I can't even answer that. That would go to DEM. DEM would do the finding and doing whatever.
If they did the findings, they found
And the
whatever,
finding,
contamination,
Yep.
whatever. And even it was a major category. What would be the town standing?
that would be, ask the town building official, ask the town
Okay,
manager.
well,
I can't
I'll ask
answer
I'll ask from them. I just needed some clarification on that one. That has nothing to do with that case. I don't know nothing about it. I got my own headaches. Can I just ask where you are with your volumes?
I'm almost complete the first one. Unfortunately, I keep getting ordered for 16-hour shifts, like I'm working 16 hours tonight and tomorrow night. So it kind of takes away from time for me to be able to concentrate on those things. So I am still working on it. And I apologize that it's taken so long.
No,
Just
don't apologize. I
Work and
understand
family are
being
getting
busy.
in the way of council.
I just want to see what the standing was,
Yeah, those are priorities. Yeah.
because I had asked, I said I wanted something on the agenda in the future, but that's going to coincide with where you are.
Correct.
I just don't want it to think that it got lost in the shuffle.
And once I'm done going through, I've got a whole bunch of questions listed that I'm gonna have to go to various people and ask questions on, because as I'm going along, I'm finding answers to my questions. So that's helpful. That's why I'm not doing any questions until then. But after that, I'll ask, certain people pertinent questions as far as what's in there, because it's stuff that's from what I can see, that's not in there that I think should be in there. And I might have to ask other people for that information, because Mr. Williamson just might not have had it.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Any other public comment? Alan, before we do, so I don't forget, we have a couple of tree lightings coming up, only Thanksgiving's next week. I can't believe how fast this year is going. Phoenix tree lighting is obviously Thanksgiving night. And then Arctic gazebo tree lighting is the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Phoenix is
So-
at 6 o'clock on Thanksgiving and the Arctic is at 5 PM. Judy T begins her performance, but the tree will get lit at 7 is when
What day is
Santa
that?
arrives.
What day is that?
Arctic is Monday after Thanksgiving and Phoenix is Thanksgiving night. Tony Petrakis still,
Are you sending an email on that?
I will, I'll send
Thank you.
something. Alan?
One other item with regard to the way the town treats people. Many years ago, if people hadn't paid their taxes on time, the town had a tax rate, I believe it was 18%. And I got very upset. I stood where I am right now and raised the issue. And after getting beat up several times by the council, I still wouldn't let go. And they lowered it. I believe it's now 12%.
I don't think you beat us up. I think we agree with you wholeheartedly. The very
No,
first
no,
time.
no, but no, not you. I'm back then.
Oh, well.
What I'm proposing now is, I believe that, interest rates are 1 to 2%. Maybe it's time
So Alan.
you guys revisited that. And if people couldn't pay their
Alan,
taxes
I
back
just-
then,
I just want to point out one thing. Everything you're bringing up tonight it's in our budget, okay? So you cut that, we cut the 18 to 12, that put a deficit in our budget. You cut it down to 6, you got to find that other 6% of late fees somewhere in our budget. And so where does that come to? It comes out of the taxpayer who's on time all the time, and then we're punishing them by raising their taxes. by
Mr.
cutting
Goslin,
the
if someone
12.
couldn't pay their taxes on time, I seriously doubt, I raised the issue at that time, that they could afford the 18%. You lowered it down to 12. Maybe that would help and they wouldn't get whacked again and again. And I understand that. But when, as I said before, the way this town wastes money in various departments, and I won't go there, it's time to stand up and do things correctly. When someone tells me they think this building is 100 years old, and I recall when this building was built, no, not quite. It's time we take some pride, bring it back. As I said, This is the home of Frank Masnicki, Tommy Lamb, Stevie Alves, Buddy Alves, okay? Let's bring back some pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Any other public comment? Hearing none, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Oh, sir, do you have something?
Yeah.
You here for a business license or something? Oh,
No, not exactly.
okay.
I'd like to propose a dog park for the town of West Warwick and Flat Top Park. A fencing area 90 feet by 90 feet by probably 60 feet triangle for small dogs and large dogs. Obviously, other towns have successfully had dog parks in their town. I can go through the list: Waterman Street Dog Park in Providence, Warwick City Dog Park off 117 in Warwick, Barrington Dog Park in Haynes Park, Pawtucket Dog Park at Slater's Park, which is a city, similar to the West Warwick with the demographics. South Kingston Dog Park, a dog park in Providence for Franciscan name Bell Street, Providence, on Bell Street in Providence, Newport Dog Park, Portsmouth Dog Park, Warren Dog Park, Richmond Dog Park, 55 Buttonswood Road in Richmond. They have a dog park committee where they raise money for to fund it, to keep it going. Wainscott Dog Park in Providence, Scallop Hound Dog Park in East Greenwich, Wesley Dog Park in Wesley, Pawtucket, Oxbows Park and City Park Cranston, and Woodlake Park in Johnston. So I think it would be beneficial for the town to have a dog park in West Warwick. And like to put that on the agenda for maybe the next meeting to decide upon and go through the issues. The pros of having a dog park would be West Warwick could have an official designated dog park for small and large dogs. It will provide all dogs and their human companions a safe place to socialize and roam free within the fence boundaries of the beautiful Richmond Hughes Jr. Flat Top Park. I think that's the name of that park, dedicated to Richard Hughes Jr. Located in the section of Flat Top Park off Newland and Turnpike. It will be a maintained space open to all dog lovers and friends who are willing to uphold the dog's parks rules and regulations. All West Warwick town parks have dogs prohibited per ordinance. This fencing space will be the exception. So it would actually increase the value of living in West Warwick, increase the recreation use in the town space that you have owned. It includes others to come see and enjoy the town. Also allow in-state travelers to enjoy the dog park when they stop by traveling through Route 95 to stop off and maybe spend money, enjoy the town, maybe want to live here. Improves the quality of life for all residents. Resident taxpayers will see a positive benefit return for their tax dollars. Enjoy the outdoors. The people will enjoy the outdoors while playing in a safe area with fresh air with their dogs and their animals and interacting with each other. And you could also add a Facebook page for the media contribution, because that's a big thing now, the West Warwick concerned citizens and whatnot. And will not interfere with any other activities or other sports at Flat Top Park. Will prevent unleashed dogs from roaming over the park, which they go in the ball field anyways. I see dogs running around loose anyways. And will prevent the feces placed in grassy areas and play fields, which would be a plus. Because that wants to be avoidable. And have the convenience of providing doggy bags and dispensers and trash barrels for the dogs in the dog packs. So they have a certain area to go into. Improve the town's image and reputation. And maybe the dog park can be placed in the agenda for the next town meeting, possibly.
I'll make a suggestion. Put it on the
Exactly right.
Recreation Committee's next agenda item, December 13th, if you'd like. And you can
If you
attend
put- if
that
you
and give
put it
the
in writing,
ideas.
Perhaps
Okay.
give them something in writing. It sounds like it's something that should be
And
vetted by the.
this item has come before the town council over the years, numerous times. We've contemplating different areas, just never came to fruition.
Right.
And
Well, I would
know Mr.
support
Woods-
this. I would volunteer for this. I could put money into this. If need be, I could find volunteers. I could find funding if need be.
Would you state your name and address for the
And-
record?
Richard Palmieri, 51 Turner Drive, West Warwick, Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Mr. Palmieri and I have been talking about this. He contacted me, 2 weeks ago? Yes. I advise him, it's, Councilman Licciardi's area, Councilman Licciardi and I have talked about it a little bit also.
Well, that fenced in area that's there now is wetlands, correct?
No, This would be a new fencing area.
Oh, okay.
I already marked it off. I mean, I like to show.
You're
it.
ahead of the
Here's
game,
mine.
huh?
Yeah.
Diagram.
So I would suggest at this point that we go to Fred Gill, our DPW director, who's the point person for this committee from the town. And he can actually place it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Which is December 13th.
Of the record.
Recreation committee,
Rec-
yes.
right.
Okay,
So.
He'll raise his hand in the back of the room and you can.
Yeah, I would suggest that you actually put something in writing so they have
Yes,
something
yeah.
to look at prior to the meeting.
for email.
You can,
Yes,
Yes.
you can go through Freddie and he'll disseminate all the information to everyone.
Okay. I'd like to give out some examples of the 10 best dog parks on Rhode Island.
okay.
I printed off and give it out to the council, please.
Sure.
I only have 6 copies.
We can make copies.
We can share. Yeah.
Thanks. He doesn't need one. He's the.
It makes,
I'll make copies if it's easier and send them if it helps.
Yeah.
it's successful for the town
Thank you.
and improves the town's standing
Thank you, Rich.
and their value.
Thank you.
You know.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. We'll take it under consideration. December 13th, you can attend the Parks and Rec Committee meeting. All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Nice meeting.
Mr. Oach, you have,
Maybe you have that.
We have it at,
Please make your points. Tom Oates, 6 Colonial Way.
7.
This is a great thing that you're speaking of,
Yes.
but 4 years ago, maybe 3 or so, I stood here
Mhm.
with a bunch of people from the South Kingstown Dog Park to propose a dog park in West Warwick with 4 places that I had already envisioned it could go. And you, Mr. Town Council President and Mr. Solicitor jumped down my throat, would not allow me to speak about it, would not listen to anybody from the South Kingstown Dog Park, told me I was out of order, and it wouldn't happen because the underwriters of the insurance of this town wouldn't allow it. You didn't give me 2 minutes. And I hope the 15 minutes that this gentleman.
I'm not
has
sure
is
what
gonna
meeting you're
work.
talking about. I know you.
I will,
Mr. Oates, I
have,
understand you
excuse me,
can't-
I'm speaking public comment,
So-
public
wait, Mr.
comment,
Oates,
public
Mr.
comment. Let
Oates.
me finish.
Wait a minute, don't get
Excuse me.
upset, Mr. Oates.
Well, you're upsetting me because you're not allowing me to speak.
Let me speak. I
no.
did, I let you did speak, so.
I'm not finished. When I'm finished, you can speak.
So, Mr.
When I'm
Oates,
finished. Are you going to shut me down?
No.
Okay, then be quiet and let me finish.
At-
Now you shut me
I'm not shutting you down, Mr. Oates. Calm
Then let me
down.
finish speaking.
You need to calm down.
Let me finish speaking. If you would like to have the time, the exact time and date of that meeting and put it up on that TV, I'll be glad to
So,
give
Mr.
you that
Oates,
information.
Mr.
But
Oates,
you would not allow me
so-
to talk.
So I did allow you to talk. We did say that the insurance, we might still have a problem with the insurance company. Again, we're giving him direction. And again, 3 years ago, the Parks and
Those-
Rec Committee weren't even meeting half the time, okay?
The
So
six-
secondly, now we have a active Parks and Rec Committee, okay? They can bring it forth. There's been numerous times over my 15 years on this council that dog parks have been brought before this council.
Yes, I
It's
understand
always
that.
been an issue with the trust also. So again, if the trust is going to raise our rates to a point, we can't, but that, again, let somebody bring it to the committee, let them look at it. They can get the information from the trust and they might not even bring it back before the council. So that's all I'm saying.
Attempted to do that. And if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 or 3 meetings after you refused to allow my name to be put forward for a committee in this town. Thank you.
Thank you.
And he'll be in California December 13th, so maybe another time after that.
Okay, thank you.
Just so you know.
Break out all my
No, I sent it out. The
videos and shake his ass up on that TV.
Thank you, Mr.
Reach
Oates.
out. We can reach out and let you know when a meeting, give you a meeting schedule. if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be the time after.
Sure.
All right, everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. With that being said,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.